One of the features of the superhero comic book genre is that of periodic reboots of popular characters and stories. New writers and artists come in and they introduce new interpretations of heroes and storylines, updating them, reimagining them. It's been par for the course for a long time. And now reboots are common in television and film as well in all sorts of genres, but there's no other form of media that reboots quite as often as the comic book. Here's the problem. When a studio is making movies and TV shows based on comic books, they have to reboot those characters much more often than any other type of pop culture genre. Comic book characters have a shelf life. It's usually half a generation, 10 years or so. Their stories are played out. New, younger audiences are coming in, and the older audience is aging out, and then they have to reboot them. And as I say, the reboots happen far more frequently than non-comic book IPs. That has been the approach to the DC Universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe on film and television, and it's going to continue. This is what is contributing to superhero fatigue, in my opinion, although some people claim that superhero fatigue is not a thing. But it's not just that the quality of the writing has declined in the past few years, it's that a significant portion of Hollywood's commercial focus has been on the comic book movie genre for 20 years or so, or slightly more than that, with so much of the industry's profitability being based on these expensive properties with a very particular type of storytelling. Naturally, there's going to be a point where general audiences have seen basically every trick in the book in terms of spectacle, character, origin story, villains, situations, world-ending scenarios, superpowers, and plot lines. A reboot offers the chance to reintroduce the entire IP from a fresh start, a clean slate, to a new audience. But of course, there can be a risk associated with that, which is why the reboot needs to contain callbacks to a previous version of the franchise, like including elements of John Williams' score in the new Superman, for example, helping to create a sense of familiarity and nostalgia with the older movie so that older audiences don't feel alienated. Or in the case of the MCU, throwing in some older legacy actors into a new reboot, creating a quasi-reboot to launch a new iteration of the franchise. This appears to be the direction the MCU is going to take from Avengers Secret Wars onwards. This article is from Variety. Marvel plans to recast the X-Men and eventually Tony Stark after Avengers Secret Wars, but reboot is a scary word, says Kevin Feige. The all-new X-Men are coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and an all-new Tony Stark will eventually join them. In a wide-ranging conversation with press on Friday, Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige confirmed that, following the events of 2027's Avengers Secret Wars, the company will recast the superpowered mutants for its upcoming X-Men movie, directed by Jake Schreier. Many of the actors who starred in the X-Men movies of the 2000s and 2010s are reprising those roles in 2026's Avengers Doomsday, including Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming, Rebecca Romijn, James Marsden, and Kelsey Grammer. Stewart also played Charles Xavier in 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Grammer appeared as Hank McCoy in a post-credits scene in 2023's The Marvels. In future films, however, X-Men characters who appeared in previous movies will be played by new actors, along with mutants making their big screen debut. The decision echoes changes in the composition of the Marvel comics following the 2015 Secret Wars storyline, which involved multiple timelines collapsing and reconverging, mixing up the characters of the main Marvel timeline in the process. Quite honestly, it just sounds like a mess that I wouldn't really enjoy all that much, but there you go. Personally think it's time for new stories. Do we need to keep rebooting the same comic books over and over again on film? It's not particularly original, is it? So yeah, I think what's going to help to sell the idea of a new rebooted, reworked version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the idea of launching it with a few returning faces so as to appeal to older audiences of previous versions of the characters. But more on that in a moment. But before we go very much further, I just want to remind you to check out my latest book, The Checkmate Machine: How Modern Smart Tech Ruins Everything. This book is available from Amazon from the links below, and it's a collection of essays I wrote, some of them based on videos I've made on such topics as artificial intelligence, automation, robotics, transhumanism, smartphone dependence, and I'd look at the general intrusive nature and negative transformative effects of smart technology in our lives. I rail against the likes of smart cities, digital IDs, and also digital currencies. I highlight the importance of holding on to physical cash because essentially digital money can be programmed and reduced to little more than being like a digital voucher. So check out the Checkmate machine available from the links below in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Okay, so welcome back. Let's continue with the Variety article. Later it says, but Feige was also careful not to characterize the changes as a reboot. Instead, the executive said Secret Wars will serve as a reset for the MCU. Reboot is a scary word, he said. Reboot can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Reset, singular timeline, we're thinking along those lines. Later he added, X-Men is where that will happen next. Yeah, I can understand that. They're probably apprehensive about the idea of doing a hard reboot and starting from scratch, which would be really throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So it sounds more like they're going for a sort of remodeling of the MCU into what is effectively still a reboot, but using some sort of multiverse timeline bending plot device in order to bring it about. Now, we kind of knew this was going to happen for a while. And if you're a comic book fan, and if you've read Secret Wars, the comic book, I mean, this is pretty much what you expected. But we're not talking about comic books here, we're talking about films. Can the frequency of reboots in comic books actually transfer to film? I mean, yeah, we've had 3 different versions of Spider-Man in the past 20 years or so. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. But can this continued process of rebooting and recasting and restarting superhero franchises continue in perpetuity? We have certainly been living through the age of superhero cinema, because it captured a point in entertainment history, and I wonder if that time is now slowly declining. Where is that going to leave the endlessly rebooted pop culture franchise? I think there will always be a market for superhero movies, but I'm very skeptical if the kind of cultural dominance they've enjoyed in the past 15-20 years can ever be recreated. To me, this genre feels increasingly tired and played out. If these stories don't resonate with younger generations in the future to quite the same degree, you can expect more nostalgia bait and member berries being used to entice older fans to come back and save the box office. Case in point, Robert Downey Jr. being brought back for Avengers Doomsday. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and remember to hit the notification bell to be notified of future updates as well. Hit that like button, share this video out there, take care, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.